We have way more than 5 senses, but we're going to talk about these 5 main senses. Our senses help maintain homeostasis. We need to be able to receive information in order to see that it's going away from the set point and keep us balanced. So if here's homeostasis, how do I know that things are going too high or too low? We have to be able to sense it. And so we have sensory organs that collect information and trigger responses in our body. So if I throw a baseball at your face, you have to be able to sense that and move out of the way in order to maintain homeostasis. So they can definitely affect our behavior to protect ourselves. So let's talk about the 5 main senses. There's definitely more than 5 senses. Okay, we can sense balance and other types of things that aren't necessarily categorized as the 5 main senses. I mean, we put the sense of pain under touch, even though it's not technically touch, because you can sense pain without it. So let's first start with vision. First, we have to have specialized organs. Well, this one is the eye, right? And in the back of the eye, we have the retina. And that's where we have these photoreceptor cells, which are part of the nervous system. We have rods that detect light and dark. So when you get into a room and it takes you a while to adjust if it's a dark room or a light room, that has to do with your rods. Your cones, and just think of C for color. Those specialized cells in the retina are the ones that mine are screwed up with me because I can't see color very well. So what happens is if you look at this object, light bounces off these objects and passes through our pupil, right, the opening in our eye, and gets reflected off of this lens, okay? And these images are typically upside down by the time they hit the back. They have to actually be flipped back over and processed into the visual cortex of our brain. And so as light passes into the lens, it comes down, right, and focuses on one point. And when light hits those cells, right, they are going to then send electrical signals through the optic nerve to the part of the brain. And if this is the brain right here, right? This is the brain. This is a weird brain, but through the back of the brain that processes vision. Hearing is done by what we call mechanoreceptors. Remember now, photoreceptors, really quickly, guys, what does photo refer to? Yeah, photo refers to light. Mechanoreceptors refer to motion. Okay, so we have mechanoreceptors inside of 2 parts of the ear. Now, our balance is controlled by these things, these semicircular canals. These are hollow tubes that are filled with fluid. Okay, now the tubes have tiny little hairs in them, and they have fluid and crystals. And if we lean forward, the fluid and these crystals knock these hairs over. So when the hairs are falling forward, you get the sensation of being forward. If the hairs are falling backwards, then you get the sensation of feeling backwards. And there's 3 of them, okay, that take care of all the 3 planes or axes of motion, your X, Y, and Z axis. But that doesn't have anything to do with hearing. As sound waves pass through your outer ear and bang up against the tympanic membrane known as the eardrum, it'll vibrate the eardrum, which then vibrates these 3 bones. We have these 3 bones, the stirrup, the hammer, and the anvil, or the hammer, anvil, and the stirrup in that order, that will also vibrate. These are the tiniest bones in the body. And as they vibrate, they will then vibrate fluid inside of this cochlea. This is a hollow, kind of a snail shell shaped organ, and it also has tiny hairs. And as it vibrates, there are fluids, and once again, these crystals that will then, here's the help, vibrate these hairs. And as these hairs vibrate, these hairs are nervous cells that are attached to the auditory nerve that then send signals to the part of your brain that detects sound. The faster they vibrate, because of high frequency sound, it's going to be a high-pitched sound. If it gets hit by a sound that has a low frequency and they don't vibrate so fast, it's going to have that deep, low-frequency sound. So it's all about the speed in which this eardrum is vibrating, which vibrates these, and so on and so forth. Smell and taste are kind of linked together because about 85% of your taste, so I've been told, is linked to smell. And it all has to do with chemoreceptors, receptors that bond to chemicals in the air. So as you fart or whatever, or smell the roses, there are chemicals that travel. They go into your nasal cavity and they bond to the olfactory bulb, which have these specialized cells that poke into your nasal cavity called olfactory cilia. And you can see these nervous cells right here. This is zooming in right here. So here's your little fart molecule, and it bonds to the surface of these, which then sends specialized signals through the olfactory nerve to your brain that controls cell. Has anybody ever seen this picture before? Where it has parts of the tongue that control bitter, sour, salty, and sweet? This is 100% BS. It's been in biology textbooks for a long time. I don't know, somewhere in the 1940s or 50s, some guy drew a picture and it made its way into textbooks. This is incorrect, okay? There are bitter, sour, salty, and sweet taste bud receptors. This is a taste bud right here. Chemicals will bond to it, and it'll send signals to the brain throughout the entire tongue. They're spread out. They may be more concentrated in regions, but they're spread throughout the entire tongue. So you really only can taste like 4 types of things in your tongue. Most of your taste has to do with smell. Your skin has a lot of sensory receptors in it that vary from touch to pain to temperature. So the touch receptors are also mechanoreceptors because they have to do with motion, the movement. And so we have these light touch, like if somebody were to brush your skin with a feather. Okay, these are called Messener's corpuscles. And we have these deep pressure ones that are a little deeper in your skin called Paxinen corpuscles that deal with deep touch. We then have pain nerve endings. We have temperature called thermoreceptors, totally different nervous cells that sense when heat is coming in or heat is leaving your body, and that sensation. So I wouldn't consider temperature a sense of touch, right? Because you can sense temperature without touching something, right? So it's kind of inappropriate to put temperature as a sense of touch. It's a different sense. So we have more than 5 senses.